Welcome, I'm Bruce Munro, and with me is International Relations Specialist Professor Robert Patman, and this is Global Insight. Civil war has erupted again in Ethiopia, a country with ancient cultures and a population of more than 100 million. Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
This region, the Horn of Africa, is probably unfamiliar to a lot of New Zealanders, but it's an area of interest for you. What is the background, recent and historic, to the civil war in Ethiopia?
Well, we've now got what looks like an approaching civil war. It's not quite a civil war yet, but the situation looks alarming, and it involves a confrontation between the federal government, which is located in Addis Ababa, led by someone called Mr. Abiy Ahmed, and a group called the TPLF, the Tigray Tigray People's Liberation Front. And the context for this is that this confrontation has developed since Mr. Abiy became leader in 2018. And between 1991 and 2018, the TPLF played a significant role in the running of the federal government in Ethiopia. And indeed, Meles Zenawi, a prime minister, was from Tigray. So Tigray is the northern part of Ethiopia, consists of about 5 million people, but has, in the last 3 decades, played a significant role in the running of the country. And since 2018, Mr. Abiy has tried to assert increasingly centralised control over the country, and this has resulted in a confrontation. There is a political battle over the constitution. Under the federal system, which was set up in 1994, each of the regions actually have the right to self-determination. And the idea of this is that it's a multi-ethnic society, with, as you said, more than 100 million people in it. But Mr. Abiy has tried to democratise the country. He set up something called the Prosperity Party. He's quite a charismatic leader. He's a devout Pentecostalist and speaks with a great deal of conviction. He has also settled the long-running dispute between neighbouring Eritrea and Ethiopia. So he has good relations with neighbouring Eritrea. The problem is that the TPLF in the northern part of the country don't have particularly good relations with Eritrea. So to cut a long story short, it's this political background that's led to a situation where there was an armed incident involving Ethiopian soldiers in Tigray, and this has led to bloodshed and confrontation. And in fact, the TPLF also launched some sort of airstrike, although limited, in Eritrea as well. So it's an alarming situation, and at the moment there is a war rhetoric and war action occurring in Ethiopia.
It is, as you say, an alarming situation, but it is a long way away from us here in New Zealand. Does it have any significance or any relevance for us here?
Yes, I think it does. As we've often said, New Zealand's part of an interconnected world, but we get about, our country is critically dependent on the importation of oil. Much of our oil imports come from the Middle East. The Horn of Africa is immediately adjacent to the Middle East, where we get our oil, and it overlooks key arteries in terms of maritime arteries, such as the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden, and a strait called the Bab and El Mandab, which all most supertankers have to pass through. Now, we get our oil via supertankers. So should the situation in the Horn of Africa not only degenerate within this very large country, which, by the way, is quite heavily armed, should that degenerate, it has the ability to affect the entire region. And Middle East players have also been quite, like Egypt, for example, and others have also tried to influence the situation. And of course, neighbouring Somalia has a problem with Islamist terrorist group Al-Shabaab. So, as you can see, if the Horn of Africa becomes really unstable, it could have regions of the Middle East region, and that in turn could affect our ability to deliver. It could affect the security of our oil supplies.
How do you think it's likely to play out?
Very difficult to be optimistic at the moment. Many of the regional groups, the danger is that the confrontation between the TPLF, I should say, and the federal government led by Mr. Abe could actually spread. Other ethnic groups may join in, other regions, and therefore you could have a full-going civil war, which would lead to the disintegration of Ethiopia. And some of these groups, such as the TPLF, they're heavily armed. So that's a worry, but you could also see regional intervention. Neighbouring Eritrea, as already mentioned, has poor relations with the TPLF, may be tempted to intervene on Ethiopia's side. And you've also got Middle Eastern actors interested in the Horn of Africa to spread their regional influence, whether it be Saudi Arabia or Egypt. And so that it looks like we could be heading towards a civil war with regional instability and possible implications for security of oil supply. So at the moment, international efforts are trying at the UN and elsewhere within Africa are devoted to try to stabilise the situation, dampen it down. But in the short term at least, it doesn't look particularly promising.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Ka kite anō.